Hello, everyone. Welcome to Optimize for Humans. My name is Usha. I'm an executive coach and consultant and your podcast host, exploring this world of AI transformation and what it means for humans and how do we optimize it for humans. I'm excited today to be speaking with Zoe Soon. Zoe, welcome. I'd love to start by asking you to introduce yourself a little bit and give us a little bit of why you're excited about this topic.
Thanks for having me, Usha. Yes, Zoe Soon. I'm head of creator and gaming at the IAB, which is a standard setting body for digital advertising. Super interested in this topic at the moment because I think for the first time since the digital revolution with the internet, we're hitting that new phase of work. So we had the industrial revolution, um, then the digital revolution with the internet, and now we're at the information revolution. So I'm really curious to see how that's really going to disrupt the way we work.
Yeah, this is a real inflection point for sure, and I appreciate you know, like, naming the ones we've had before. And I'd love to kind of just start by asking you, as a leader, how you're finding yourself in this moment as part of this information revolution, and you know, how are you thinking about like what work sits with AI, what work sits with the humans on your team, and just like how are you navigating the change with all of that?
I think that's something that all leaders are grappling with at the moment. And
Yeah.
everyone is probably feeling grossly behind because it's just unfolding so rapidly. The way that I think about it is, and this might be simplistic, but the way I think about it is like a calculator. So you can do mathematics the longhand way and get to an answer. Um, and same thing with a lot of tasks. But a calculator will sort of do that grunt work for you. But if you think about high level math, where you've got sort of like those strategic problems, or you need that thinking. And same thing with AI. If I need to research a particular topic, I can use AI to help surface all of that content a lot more easily. But then interpreting what that means, putting it in the context of clients and the industry, I think there's still definitely a role for us to play there. Um, I think the mistake is that people are thinking that AI will replace thinking instead of optimize thinking. And the best results is sort of when you go back and forth with AI, poke holes in it, question it, or you have some sort of strategic framework or point of view, and then you're using AI to sort of enhance or
Yeah.
inform parts of a thinking that you've already established.
Yeah, and I think we definitely notice the difference in quality as we
Yes.
encounter stuff, you know, whether it's on your LinkedIn or YouTube or what have you, like it's definitely distinct the quality that people produce when there's more of their own perspective and point of view in it versus something, you know, and this is the whole turnaround AI slop, right?
Yes.
Where Go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, I think, I mean, it's like old home, it's the journey, not the destination. And there's a couple of things there, right? People want to see the struggle. If I see an amazing piece of art and then someone tells me it's AI, I'm like, oh, okay. But if I think
Yeah.
that someone honed their skills over 10,000 hours, and what I'm seeing is this piece that's evolved that they've spent all this time creating, I will sit and marvel at it. And we're
Yeah.
so starved of a sense of awe in our lives. I will stare at it. But as soon as I know that it's AI, it's the same thing that I'm looking at, same outcome. It loses
Yeah.
something for it, right? And then on the other side, um, we're richer for having gone through the journey of thinking or coming or grappling with problems versus outsourcing it to AI. So I think um, it is a very exciting time, and there are so many things getting accelerated by it. But
Yeah.
those two things, like the sense of struggle and journey, and the self development that you go through in thinking for yourself, I think is has to be preserved.
Yeah, there's something about like human essence that's how I think about it that I think is
Yeah.
still because it can write a really compelling article documenting a messy journey, human moment that's completely fabricated and it won't have the same kind of gravity behind it, right?
Mhm.
But yeah, there is something about like preserving that human essence that I feel really passionate about in this moment as we're all creating more and more, which I think is an amazing outcome of this. But there is something about tuning in for the signal versus the noise and recognizing like what is the thing that like from a human to another human will be most meaningful and impactful when we're building or creating. And even I think in an organizational context, it's like when you're communicating with your people, what is the human to human essence that you're trying to go with rather than, the talking points and this and that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'd love to kind of explore the creator economy with you because I know this is something that you spend a lot of your time thinking about. It's growing so quickly. I'm curious how AI changes the game.
Yeah, it's growing. I think last year we projected that the creator economy, brand spend in the creator economy was growing an average of 4 times faster than the rest of digital media. It's projected to hit almost $44 billion this year, which is which is crazy. Um, AI is changing the game in a couple of ways. I think at a tactical level, AI tools are sort of democratizing um, publishing for creators, which the platform sort of did in the start because it gave everyone a platform. But if you think about it, a creator may have a really lean team or be a team of one, and now they can have editing tools at their disposal. A lot of things that would traditionally require a team. So that's sort of like turbocharging the game
Yeah,
for a lot of creators. Um, and also things like name, image, likeness. So if I'm a creator and I might get a host read ad, like a brand might ask me to do a host read, I physically may now not need to do that. I can
right,
use AI to clone my name, image, likeness and do those more turnkey sort of
right.
things. It knows my voice. It's an AI version of me that I've given permission to. And then on the other side, we're sort of seeing been a lot of talk about will AI replace creators? Like in a very dystopian future, if you have an AI agent that knows you so well, it might say, Usha, I know you're going to Hawaii next month. I took the liberty of curating a list of swimsuits and holiday looks that are all in your size that complement what you've already bought because I know what you've already bought. Do you want me to buy these for you? Click yes, and I will do the purchase. So like bypassing the whole creator route. This is a very dystopian future that we're nowhere near. Um, but there has been talk about will your AI agent be so good in knowing you and anticipating your needs that you won't need creators? Which I don't think is the case because there's that whole inspiration journey and that goes along with it, an aspiration journey. But what I do think is happening is like AI is looking for creators to power it. So
Yeah,
recently, OpenAI bought TVPN, which is a podcast network, and it would sort of be like if Tesla bought a YouTube channel on cars,
yeah, 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 yeah.
that sort of thing. And also, a lot of the creator content, like the comments section and the people replying to comments, all of that is actually perfectly designed to teach LLMs, right? Or that
Yeah,
the comment response sort of phrasing
so
and
true.
formatting that you find in creator networks.
Yeah.
Um, so I think, and AI's infrastructure, what it lacks is narrative and influence, which is what creators provide. So I think they sort of go hand in hand.
Yeah, and I think too, like part of the whole creator economy is also just people sharing their experiences, their stories, right? Like we consume it more for that than, I think that there is likely going to be a world where I think like agents are shopping with other agents to find the products that we need. I think
Yes,
it's an interesting world and I'm intrigued by the how that might unfold and the particular risks and the particular magic of that. I'm open and interested, but I mean my hope is that this actually makes gives more access to more people to share their stories. I think we've already seen a huge unfolding of that, even just with the digital revolution, right? And even just with like
absolutely.
YouTube and yeah. and it'll be interesting to see how that continues to unfold. But my hope is that my worry is that there's just so much more noise in the system now that it's harder to find things that are more meaningful.
Yes, I think, was it last year the AI produced content officially overtook human-made content on the internet? So there's
Wow.
officially more not human-created content, for want of a better word, than human-created content. So I think that's a
Yeah.
double-edged sword because yes, we are sort of drowning in information. We can't keep up. Information is cheap.
Yeah.
But the flip side of that is that um, that human element, or I'm trying not to use the word authenticity because it's overused, but you can really stand out,
It's true.
and people are craving that. I predict that
Yeah.
theaters, people going to theater will become more and more popular because it's rarer and
Interesting.
rarer. Um, so anything that you can do to have your personality stand out, I think we started seeing this, as you said, with the digital revolution and people going to, iPhone shot videos that are on the fly versus these really high produced
Yeah.
brand campaigns, like the more off the cuff, real time was sitting better with people because there's like a life to it versus
Yeah.
something that they feel like people want them to know. It's sort of like they're getting to see it for themselves. So I think that will continue as well.
Yeah, I love the theater piece. Actually, I hadn't thought about that, but I think that's so true, especially as, it gets so good that you need less filming because you can actually just create the characters with that. I think we'll still be craving the authentic experience. Again, that's my hypothesis. I think some
Yeah.
of this is like yet to be tested and to be seen. I find that in my own writing, where sometimes I find I have to edit, like when I'm not using AI, I'm just writing. I have to edit myself because a lot of like I do enjoy some of the instructions from copywriting and stuff. It is a way to grab people's attention in a thoughtful way, but it's so overdone right now that I
Mm,
find my own writing moving away from that because I don't know, every time I know I read certain posts on LinkedIn or what have you that feel too orchestrated with AI, I definitely struggle with some of that.
yes. And I
Yeah.
can never look at an M dash the same way again because
Yeah, exactly. Or an emoji, which I'm quite sad about the
yes,
emoji piece because I like using emojis in my writing, but
I know. But
not
then every time I'm
anymore.
like, no, people think that AI wrote this and I didn't write it, so I leave them all out now.
I know. And I think we're still finding our sweet spot with this. Um, Advice from a creator that I really like, his name is Ali Abdal. The way he talks about it is like creating with AI is he talks about it as a sandwich of like you have to be there at the beginning to set the context, to actually set the direction, really think about it
Right,
strategically.
ask the right
And then
prompt.
yeah, and like you can outsource the middle of it for it to do a little bit of the work of like building that out, and then you have to come back in at the end of really filtering that through the human lens and
Yep,
both from a quality assurance, fact checking perspective, but also just from a like, will this land for people in the
yep.
way that you want it
And then
to?
it
And I
loops all
really
over
love
again,
that.
right?
Yeah, totally, totally. Along those lines, as we're thinking about humans and whatnot, and I know when we spoke a little bit about representation, and I think that's a really rich conversation for us to be thinking about as part of this. So, what concerns do you have as we think about AI in this landscape and representation?
I think AI is a great amplifier of biases that are already there.
Mm,
Um, I mean, if you think about it, at least when I was growing up, there were very few Asians on TV.
yeah,
And if they were the sidekick. I think Lucy Liu and Charlie's Angels were maybe one of the first,
yeah,
Asian leading women that I saw. Um, it's sort of that at a much bigger scale with AI, right? If you think about who's training these models, who's like coding these models,
yeah,
engineering is a predominantly male driven field. So where's the female representation? And then you layer on top of that the diversity of
yeah,
ethnicities and cultures, and you sort of you get another level of biases. So I think if you remember back to when AI was sort of gathering speed in the form that we're currently experiencing it. They did a study where they asked AI to show them images of executives, and AI overwhelmingly came back with white males in suits. And then it
Yeah.
asked to show homemakers, and it was predominantly female. So then, sort of just, and that's not AI's fault, obviously. It's sort of reflecting the cultural and societal, you know, um, stereotypes and perceptions that we currently have. Um,
Yeah.
but then it's going to play this role in reinforcing them unless we sort of take action to like consciously try and retrain it and yeah, and give a more balanced worldview.
Yeah, and I think part of it is like all of its context is coming through the written word and images, I suppose, but it's pulling from like history books and all of these things. And we know through our lived experience that all of those accounts are partial, right? Like the history books is just like one example of this. But even I bet you even before AI came onto the scene, if we Googled executives, we would have the same rendering for the most part,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
But that's because our biases are kind of baked in. And without, but I think where the danger is that AI doesn't have the lived context
Right.
of actually seeing the world and being a part of the world. So I think in a way that like while we have that, while we're like on the internet, we recognize that there's this one layer of this and level of this and these biases exist. We also have a whole other tapestry in our world and in our life where we get to experience people in different ways in a way that AI might never get to, right? So I think that's just an interesting thing for us to always be thinking about. And the bias piece, I think, is a really meaningful and important one for us to be thinking about. And especially for leaders, one specific actually use case that I think we need to be mindful of is um, like meeting transcription has become the norm in a lot of different organizations. And I think that can be a really rich source of feedback of looking into like, hey, like tell me how I can make this meeting more effective. How can I facilitate? Or like give me some input that I can share as part of performance feedback and whatnot. But that's I think we have to be really cautious about that because there could be some really meaningful insights and input from that, but also it doesn't account for diversity of it doesn't account for neurodiversity, it doesn't account for power dynamics, and those are things that the AI can't necessarily, it doesn't necessarily have the context of, right? So
Yes.
you could have a case where the person who speaks the most or most confidently just gets automatically rated higher, and we do this naturally anyway, but now we're amplifying that.
Yes. I'm glad you brought up the note taking because that's sort of another point. If you think about females in the workplace or females in general, more likely to be the one to put their hand up to take the notes, or if there's
Yeah,
a baby shower that needs to get planned, it usually falls on the lap of a female coworker.
yeah,
Um, and what we're finding is that now that AI can take over some of
yeah.
these tasks, like the note taking, probably not planning the baby shower, but some of those things that women would volunteer for, it is freeing them
Yeah,
up to focus on more executive level tasks, so that
yeah.
there are silver linings there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Absolutely. And I think this is the tricky element of this, right? Where there's actually so much possibility here
Yes.
and also risks here. And we're all, I think every leader is kind of navigating that in their own way at the moment.
Yes. I think
Um,
the possibilities and the risk reflect how great the possibilities are, right? They're sort of
yeah,
counterbalancing
absolutely.
each other. There's great possibility and great risk.
Yeah, absolutely. So we spoke about neurodivergence earlier, and I'm curious what your thoughts are on how, in what ways, like AI helps and in what ways it hinders. Like I've heard someone with ADHD specifically mention to me how this has actually been really helpful for them because they have this natural superpower where you're able to like balance multiple streams of input and thought at the same time. Yeah, I'm just curious, what's your sense of that?
I think it's really interesting because like I mentioned, we haven't really disrupted the way we've worked for so long. and it's really favored the logical brain, the 9 to 5, the linear
Yeah.
thinking. And with this influx of information, logic is sort of something that AI can manage. Like
Yeah.
that's how machines work. So with logical thinking becoming table stakes, then I think it's easier to stand out with the lateral thinking or the slightly different ways. Um, and if you think about it, a lot of people, we sort of expect that everyone works in the same ways, but people have
Yeah.
different different productivity windows, or they need certain things to come to life. And um, the it's almost like holding a cork underwater, trying to be
Yeah.
productive in the designated hours. So I'm really curious to
Absolutely.
see, whether this new wave that we're coming across will disrupt that. Because since the rise of social media, we're seeing the rise of, whether correlation or causation, we're seeing the rise of ADHD
Yeah.
cases, and just people having shorter attention spans.
Yeah.
Um, and we haven't really changed the way we work, or to sort of,
Yeah.
address this population of people who may not work in that linear fashion. So
Yeah, I think it's definitely like a moment to shine for people who can hold lots of different, stimuli at the same time and lots of different inputs at the same time. And I liked how you said like it kind of makes the logical linear thing table stakes.
yeah,
And I also just think like this is where the uniquely human capability thing becomes critical, where we have this ability to like bring together things that don't naturally belong together or sit together,
yes.
right? And that's where a lot of great innovation comes from. It's bringing together disparate things and arranging them in new ways. So, yeah, I think it'll be really interesting to see what this does for us.
Yeah, I mean, I think our creativity is what makes us human, right? And whether you think
Yeah,
creativity in fine arts, or you think creativity in the way you put food ingredients together, like everything is creativity, right? We're here to
yeah,
create versus consume. Um, and hopefully AI will, one, free up our time to do more creation, and
yeah.
two, yeah, bringing that creativity through will really, let you stand apart from the information overload that we're all experiencing.
I'd love to kind of close with just asking you if there's one practical piece of advice um, for any leader first that you would share as they're navigating their own journey with this, and maybe a female leader, just because we talked about diversity as part of that. What would those two pieces of advice be that you would share?
I think for one, know your skills that AI can't do and lean into them.
Yeah,
So relationship skills, I think creativity is going to have a big resurgence. I definitely know in the advertising space, we got caught up in the promise of programmatic advertising for a long
yeah,
time, where it was, you know, right time, right place, right person. That's the programmatic promise, right? You're going to traffic it and hit the target audience that you want. But we've
yeah,
definitely under-indexed on what is the message that we're trying to get across.
right.
What's the creative that is in that ad that hits the person that you want it to hit. And
Yeah,
with there being such an overload of information right now, like with AI content, there's so much information.
yeah,
Having that right critical thinking, creative messaging is really, really important. So, yeah, think about things like that, is whether it's your relationship skills or your creativity, how you think laterally in a way that's maybe unique, really interesting. And then I
yeah,
think the other piece of advice is probably something that everyone shares, is, stay curious about it.
yeah,
Um, I don't think you can afford to say, "Oh, I'm not high tech." It doesn't have to be
yeah,
high tech. You know, try it. For a long time, like, I would be doing things, and then it would occur to me later to be like, "Oh, let me see what AI would say about this," or, to sort of use it as a research companion or a work
yeah,
companion. Definitely
absolutely.
don't outsource everything to AI, but, be
Yeah.
experimenting with how you can um, stretch your creativity further, or free yourself up to bring a more unique perspective.
Yeah, and I actually that's a really interesting one where I do think one of the great pieces in the realm of possibility is we do have like experts now that we can go to in a way that we didn't
Mm.
always have access to, right? Like I know I, as an example, struggle with like brand stuff. Like self-promotion isn't something that I feel naturally adept at. And things like that, I think I now have so much more insight and access around because of these tools. And so I think that's actually a really valuable one, especially for like underrepresented communities to be thinking through like how can you level the playing field and give yourself that edge, whatever that might be.
Yes, and if you think about it, um, I think you brought this point up actually when we were chatting about we haven't really evolved from the factory worker style nine to
Yeah.
five. We are a very, yeah, we're still so influenced by the Industrial Revolution, which is, two
Yeah.
ages ago now, where it's very linear thinking, 9 to 5.
Mm.
You turn creativity or
Yeah.
your work mode like a tap. Um, and with the rise of social media and short form video and just digital in general, excuse me, we're seeing the rise of ADHD and people having, you know,
Yeah.
short attention spans. But the current work setup isn't really engineered to complement people who don't think in linear fashions, right? It's like
Yeah.
it's very A, B, and therefore C. So I'd be curious to see if neurodivergent coaches come on the
Yeah.
rise, or how to think laterally becomes more of a source of investigation. Do we have, and we work disrupted the working space a while ago, and obviously that had a dramatic ending. Um, but I think we are overdue for some sort of revolution in the way we work and the way we
Yeah,
lean into our
absolutely.
natural rhythms and creativity. So I'm, yeah, very curious about that space as well.
Yeah, and my hope is that this pushes us to be more human all around. Like my hope is that, as you were saying about the content piece of like more authentic voices will hopefully start to stand out because now
Yes.
there's so much noise. And I hope that applies for workplaces as well, that we actually now take the time to say, what are humans particularly good at? And how can we create space for you to be creative, for you to use your empathy, for you to like connect with the customers, connect with each other, for people to come together and come up with something novel, right?
Yes. Bring your own
And
voice to work versus towing the corporate line that.
yeah, absolutely. And again, I think that's all we'll have to see how all of this pans out. I think we're all kind of in the wading our way through the unknown as part of this. But I hope every leader really, uses this and leverages this as a way to create more space for the human things at the end of the day.
Yes, I'm sure they will.
So it's been such a pleasure. Thank you so much for being on the podcast. It's been a real pleasure to chat with
My
you.
pleasure. Thank you for having me. It's been great chatting with you.